Hello and welcome to episode 22 of the Rick Troutner Show. And if you're just coming off of episode 21, you may be a little upset. You might be, I don't know. Episode 21 was definitely a one-of-a-kind episode. I debated before pressing record now whether to keep that episode in and whether to make this episode 21, but I think it's an important episode. I think it's an important episode for many reasons. One of the main reasons will be because I believe I single-handedly discovered the impending economic collapse, and I was able to see it very clearly. And let's see, I love how I was putting those windows up. All right, I was able to see it very clearly, and it was quite horrifying, and I almost didn't have any words for it. I tried to rationalize it with that, well, the numbers don't matter, and that there'll be some kind of violent conflict that can sort out these financial numbers. But the point of it is that no matter what happens, it's not gonna end well for a lot of people. So I think it's important to be at least aware of what's going on, and there's some things that are good, like we were looking at different charts and graphs straight from the Federal Reserve, where they have the economic stats and stuff and how accurate they are and things like that. I can't tell you, but it's definitely none of the social media platforms can flag my source. But they're going to flag they could, and that's like the whole thing. But if they are, they would be calling into question just that they would be really showing the whole farce for what it is. And we were looking at graphs like this. Now, this is actually, I guess, one of the more promising ones because there's an actual physical change, like the amount of mortgages that are held, that's all on paper, but the actual amount of housing units that have been started, if this data is correct, shows an actual practical change happening in the world, with there being more housing units. That's good. Are they overpriced? Are they attainable by your average person? If they are attained, what does that mean with the mortgages, and where are they being built? Are they being built in places that might be underwater in a short amount of... I can't answer all that, but I can say that at the current time, even if we're at this base here, we're at around mid 2007 levels of building. Wow, you could see how insignificant the tech recession. You see the tech bubble. That's a tech bubble, right? That has to be. Yeah, 2001. This little tech bubble recession compared to the housing one. The housing one was intense. There's the tech bubble one, and then there was the housing one. And the housing one was whoo. And then we have the COVID dip, and then we hit a peak, and then we may either be entering another dip, or it's just part of the fluctuations. We don't know just yet. If it goes below the COVID dip, we might have a problem. I don't know. So, but we were looking at graphs like this. We were looking at the graphs of how many of the mortgage-backed securities are owned by the Fed. And this is only a thing that... Oh, this is all the mortgages. So this is all the mortgage-backed securities that the Treasury and the Federal Reserve have on their balance sheet. Mortgage-backed, all commercial, this is all commercial banks. So this is in billions. What? Wait, what? Okay, 2.7 trillion. I thought that was 2 million billion, but no, it's 2,700 billion. So that's 2.7 trillion in mortgage-backed securities. And then we see assets, securities held outright. So this is stuff that is owned by the Federal Reserve. So this is essentially, some may say, now I'm not an economist, I'm not a financial analyst, I'm just a layman citizen, private citizen Just making a little observation. So it would seem if we follow the logic of this graph that we have a time before the last recession when the Federal Reserve didn't hold any mortgage-backed securities at all. It was literally zero. It was zero up until on December 31st, 2008, it was zero. Wow. And then January 7th, 2009, it was zero. January 14th, 2009, all of a sudden there was nearly $6 billion in mortgage-backed securities that the Treasury owned. Then Barack Obama was inaugurated, and that number then began. So is that TARP? Why did Federal Reserve start buying mortgage-backed securities? I'm an idiot. I mean, why does the Fed buy them? To support a continuing flow of credit and liquidity. The Federal Reserve again began purchasing sizable amounts of agency mortgage-backed securities, among other measures taken in support of the economy, like lowering short-term interest rates. Fed's mortgage buying spree at $1 trillion with no end in sight. The Federal Reserve has snapped up $1 trillion of mortgage bonds since March, a record pace of purchasing. So this is what we're seeing right here. And it really is a record pace. I mean, that is fucking intense. So where's the trillion? So we were at 1.3 trillion, and now we're at... Oh, it's just about... We haven't reached a trillion yet, at least not from here. And mortgage bonds... As the U.S. Central Bank tries to blunt the impact, so this is COVID, bought around $300 billion of the bonds in each of March and April, and since has been buying about $100 billion a month. It now owns almost a third of bonds backed by home loans in the U.S. Buying the securities pushed mortgage rates lower, with the average 30-year rate falling to 2.91 last week from 3.3 in early February. Yeah, there we go. That drop has allowed homeowners to refinance their mortgages, tantamount to giving them a raise by cutting their monthly loan payments. It also helped consumers buy homes, but the Fed's efforts are causing its balance sheet to balloon. And with the central bank owning so many of U.S. home loans, it has unusually high power over setting mortgage rates. Ooh. I mean, they're already... The Fed's purchase efforts started off with a bang on March 15th, when it said it was slashing its benchmark interest rate back to 0% and would purchase at least $200 billion of mortgage-backed securities. So the Fed owns a third of the mortgages. So how is that going to play out? I mean, the servicers are still going to foreclose. The creditor is the Federal Reserve. Man, this seems like a long-term play. Changing at least in its statement to in the amount. On March 23rd, the central bank signaled its willingness to buy near unlimited amounts of the debt. Changing at least in its statement to in the amounts needed. By the end of that month, mortgage purchases totaled $291 billion. An average of $23.4 billion per day. While the Fed has been buying mortgage bonds, it bought even more Treasury securities, around $1.8 trillion since mid-March. According to data from the New York Fed, the central bank's purchases have expanded its balance sheet to $7 trillion from $4.7 trillion on March 18th. Morgan Stanley analysts pointed out in late March that the mortgage buying was running at 8 times the pace seen in prior episodes of Fed purchasing under programs known as quantitative easing, a pace that has since slowed. The current monthly rate of about $100 billion translates to about $40 billion net after accounting for borrowers' principal payments from the mortgage bonds already on the Fed's balance sheets. The latest statement from the Fed has promised to keep buying at least at the current pace. If the central bank does so, by year's end, it will have purchased about $1.4 trillion in mortgage bonds and added around $900 billion net to its holdings. That purchasing will fuel the growth of the mortgage-backed securities market, which finances the majority of the roughly $11 trillion of U.S. single-family home loans outstanding. Back in December, consensus was for net supply to come in around $265 billion this year, a level that would be right in line with the annual average of $270 billion over the last half-decade. JP Morgan Chase & Co. analysts last month raised their forecast to $390 billion, which would be the highest since 2009. According to the JP Morgan analysis, the increased size of the market makes the Fed's pace buying sustainable. Well, there we go, folks. The smarty pants over at JP Morgan, the JP Morgan analysts have now decreed that it is sustainable. So good. Nothing to worry about here. It is sustainable because the size of the market makes it sustainable. So this is sustainable. So there's no problems to be seen here. There's nothing to see. Everybody can go back to what they were doing, can go back to sleep in peace. Everything's going to be fine because the market between September 2012 and October 2014, due to a quantitative easing program known as QE3, the Fed owned a record 34% of the market. Just before this latest round, principal payments from its mortgage bond holdings had whittled down to 21%, but it has now increased back to 30%. If the Fed maintains its current buying pace, it will again own 34% of the mortgage universe. What a great fucking turn of phrase. Of the mortgage universe. The universe of mortgages. What a brilliant phrase. There is a universe of mortgages, and the Fed will own a third of it. This is all the mortgages in the universe. They're using that word very specifically. They mean on Mars. They mean in stars, in places far, far away. Star Wars quote. In many, many places. That would be great if we get copyright strike for using that phrase. I can't wait for the phrase copyright strikes to happen. In a place far, far away, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. Copyright strike. You can't use that. You can't use that advertising phrase. So in a place far, far away, the mortgage is there too. On Tatooine. The mortgage is on Tatooine. The rates are high on Tatooine. The mortgage rates are high. Supporting economy. The Fed's purchase activity has allowed risk premium or spreads on mortgage bonds to remain little changed now compared with the end of last year. It has also helped improve mortgage bond returns for the year compared. Guys, pandemic, schmandemic. Why aren't we all in the mortgage bond industry? What the fuck are we doing? We don't need. If you saw this is why episode 21 was a good prequel, a good pre-episode to episode 22. And that's how we do it here. I like to layer in the content. So why aren't we all on mortgage bonds? We don't need plumbers. We don't need electricians. We don't need software developers. We don't need, we don't need engineers. We don't need doctors. We don't need nurses. Quit all that. Get rid of all that. Who cares about all this? Because it seems like where we all need to be is in the very, very sexy industry of mortgage bonds. So that thing that you saw in episode 21 with PBS that's funded by who the fuck knows who, forget all that because we are getting into mortgage bonds. Because pandemic, schmandemic, the Fed is there and the mortgage bond return rates have remained little changed. So thank God for that. Because if the people making money on mortgage bonds even had their income disrupted just a little bit, I don't think we should. I don't think we can have that. I don't think I could live in a society where the mortgage brokers that are making and the JP Morgans of the world are having their income just a little perturbed by the global pandemic. That would not be a place I'd want to be. But thank God it has not only remained unchanged, but it has improved the mortgage bond returns. For the first few months of 2020, see, this is why this is where the pandemic came from. They're like, 2020 is a slow year, guys. What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do? And like one of the new interns in the back is like, I have an idea. And they're like, shut up. Shut your fucking mouth. You have nothing to say. You have nothing to contribute here. You're a first year intern. And then it was this little Chinese fella. And this little Chinese fella was like, you know what we should do? And they're like, okay, what? What do you, little Chinese fellow, what are you going to tell us? What are you going to tell us? How about release a global pandemic and improve mortgage bond returns? And they're like, you know what? I don't get it, but it's a plan that's crazy enough to work. Pandemic, higher mortgage bond returns. Let's meld these together. How do we get higher returns? Because 2020 was a slow year. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. The Bloomberg Barclays US MBS index has bounced back to negative 0.34% as of Friday's close from a year-to-date low of negative 2.87% on March 19th. Why are these negative? What? What? This is why I don't do mortgage bonds. How the US MBS index? So it's negative, so they made it less negative. They're like, guys, a pandemic, I think, will get us just right below zero. We'll go from below zero, almost 3 below zero, to just below zero. And all we have to do is just, the global pandemic. How do we get this done? How do we see? I have a description on my YouTube channel which says that hurry up and watch these videos while you can, because we don't know how long this channel will last. And that's an honest phrase, because saying these things, I don't know how long this channel is going to be up. This channel already has a community guideline strike, so literally at any time this channel could just wipe off the face of the earth. Which brings us to today's indirect, not a sponsor. This is a joke, but sponsor. So you should go check out Anchor.fm or Spotify, because they don't give a fuck. They really just do not give a fuck about whether you have listeners, whatever you're talking about. They just do not care, because my little show, the Rick Troutner Show, I'm already monetized. I mean, I can actually advocate for Anchor. I've already made 2 cents from Anchor from having no listeners. So go listen to me talk about things like this on Spotify and all the places that the little sponsorship will happen. Please go do that, because it goes into my pocket and it allows me to consider what I'm doing relevant and important, and allows me to maybe pay rent at a place or a mortgage, because the mortgage rates couldn't be lower. So ladies and gentlemen, we have a goal for this show, for the Rick Troutner Show. I would love to get a mortgage. I would love a few mortgages. And I would love all the mortgages. I want all the mortgages. So because the interest rates couldn't be lower. The interest rates couldn't be lower. 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Here we go. Boom. 3.13%. And it's going up. So time is running out. The rates are going up, ladies and gentlemen. The rates are going up. So let's support the show. Look, I got the Patreon. Here we got the Patreon over here. Now, who's going to be the first Patreon? I'm purposely not telling my family and shit about this, because I don't want that kind of nepotism for my work. I don't want that. I want to find listeners, because also they would not find what I'm talking about cool in any way. They would be like, "What are you talking about? You conspiracy theorist addled brain. What is wrong with you?" So I would love to get listeners that actually like the message. So I do have a Patreon, and you can go support the Patreon. And look at that mug. Here we go. So go support the Patreon right here. I do I have a tier? I don't have posts. Do I not have a tier? My membership patrons benefits. So I guess I gotta do something here, right? I gotta do like a view page. So is this my page? I love how I don't even have tiers and shit. So become a patron. What happens if you click become a patron on my page? Patreon's definitely gonna shut it down too, because apparently Patreon, if people comment things on it, custom pledge. Oh, you could do a custom pledge. So look, you could be like, hey, I just want to give this dingle twat $1, and you can go do that. So go become a patron of the Patreon. You know, even just for shits, I'll mention you in the show. I'll be like, look, I got the first patron, and I'll do a private episode. So whenever the first patron comes on, I'll start doing private Patreon episodes. So there'll be like 2 canon. You know, the episode 21, I wasn't sure if it was going to be canon, but it is canon. And this is episode 22. So whenever I get the first patron, I will do the first Patreon episode, and that'll be the Rick Troutner Patreon show, and it'll be very similar to this show, but I'll be saying different things. I may be talking about things I talked about in this show, but I'll be doing them just for people who have paid into the Patreon, and if that's one person, I'll do it for you. So for $1, you're gonna get a private show. Jesus fucking Christ. And I have to add the fucking in there because, you know, to add emphasis. So Anchor, great platform. If you're some kind of lunatic out there, or you're deranged or bewildered, or you believe in ghosts or magic, or you know, those will actually be better. Like if I was a little crazier, I'm not saying I don't have a little bit of crazy, but if I was just a little more unhinged, I would probably get more viewers. I'm probably too tame for YouTube. And you don't even have to be crazy. You just have to. There's this channel. It's called Vlog Creations. Very successful channel. And there's this video where he's like, oh man, I got arrested, and because I jumped over a cop. Vlog creation guy jumps over cop. Right? First time I got arrested. So I love where somewhere in this video, and he's a dude, he looks like, I think he's in Tampa or somewhere in Florida, and he's just like, yeah man, I got arrested, and he's like, I made this video where I jumped over a cop, and you know, I just kept doing crazier things, and I would make more money, so I would want to do crazier things. Like, it's a lot of these YouTubers, some are insane. Some, they just happen to be insane and they turn the camera on. A lot of them, especially the more successful ones, they're just intelligent business people that see what works and double down on what works. So, I mean, if I was jumping over cops and doing shit like this, I'd probably have a much bigger channel. So I do not begrudge. I'm inspired by things like this. I'm inspired by things like this. So let's fit this to screen. Let's see. What does he say?
I'm like, you better not freaking delete that crap. And
right,
he was like,
all he cared about was the footage.
Like trying to figure it out and look at it. And that's totally what he was doing.
Ross Creations. Is his name Ross? This is a very interesting video. Like, there he's doing flips over the guy. But there's this great quote where he's like, I just kept making more money, and I would do crazy things, and I make more money, so I do crazier things. And he's like, oh yeah, on that video where I got arrested,
I have incentive.
Tell me you know it. No. People threatening him and shit.
If you just built that, about to ruin your day, and
About to ruin your day. He's going for the camera.
Woo! Put your hand behind your back.
These guys are like, all right, they made these cops day. Like, if you're a cop, you can't wait for days like this. You're like, yeah,
Sit down.
something to do. Hey, but he got the footage.
On today's show, we will be discussing the first time that I was arrested and taken to the clinic. Basically, I was here. The cop was here. I have to like explain it as if I didn't get a video of it. So I ran and I jumped over him and I did a side flip. Everybody says, oh, you did a backflip over the cops. But in reality, it was a side flip. So know that.
I love that correction.
So I did a backflip over the cops. I ran and I kept going, and then I stopped, turned around, and I went back to explain it like a fool. I didn't know back then that you shouldn't explain things. Like, hey, it was just for a video, it was a joke or whatever. It was a joke, don't you get it? The irony of somebody jumping over you while you're sitting, isn't that so ironic? They were offended that I did it, but they were mostly offended when they found out the camera was recording. They said they were going to ruin my day and erase it. You've seen the video. Say, no, you're not. Run to get the camera. They tackled me. I didn't know I was under arrest, otherwise I wouldn't have ran from them. Right. I don't know if it was the same day or not, but I had just done jumping over people, and I was like, dang, man, that'd be an awesome shot to do it to a cop, too. I was sitting there, and while I was sitting there, he picks up my camera and stuff, and he's fidgeting with it. He reads me my rights, and I'm like, you better not freaking delete that crap. Right. And he's like trying to figure it out and look at it. That's totally what he was doing. Took me to jail, and I remember laying in bed and being like, the only thing that was on my mind is that video better be on that camera. I love God, every time I get arrested, that's what on my mind. That's what's on my mind. I'm thinking the camera guy better freaking got the shot.
I love that.
Because if he didn't, would be pissed. That happened when I got arrested for the wedgie. We didn't get that on video. They took the camera as evidence, so I got out of jail the next day. I called my mom. Hey, Mom, I'm in jail. It was a sucky feeling, but it was so funny. I didn't care then because I was like blowing up on YouTube, and every time I'd do something wild, I'd just get more views and more money, and so it didn't even matter. Hey, Mom, I'm in jail.
So there you go. That's the psychology behind YouTube. See, this is the kind of sick economy that has been built up, which is the YouTube economy, where things that would, logically, when you run the risk reward calculation, it would be like, no, the risk to reward doesn't make sense. No one was jumping over cops before YouTube. Like that wouldn't make economic sense. Like logical, sane people wouldn't be jumping over cops, like doing flips over cops, unless that was their buddy. Not cops who are strangers that appear to be on duty for every reason possible, look like they're on duty. There's no risk reward calculation that you could do in your head. Now everybody's risk reward calculators, maybe the reward is the thrill of doing it, so probably there were people doing flips over cops, but the risk reward balance is so skewed in a YouTube economy. I mean, even if we go down here, there's things like this where look at this video that's being recommended. We bought the dumbest products on wish.com. So there's just that as a concept. Now, in normal society, like no YouTube, it's like, why would you buy why would you waste your money on buying the dumbest products? But buying the dumbest products and making a video about it, they probably not only made the money back for whatever they paid for the dumb products, but they probably made a huge profit on it. And how many views? 2.2 million views. So yeah, the YouTube economy has completely thrown out of whack a traditional risk reward imbalance. Now, I mean, in all of human history, there's been a skewed risk reward. Like the risk reward balance has never really been in balance. There's always forces that make illogical things logical. And so what I'm saying is no sane person would just go jump and do a flip over a cop, with sans YouTube or sans some kind of, unless someone was just paying you directly. Someone was like, I'll give you $100 to go, do a flip over that cop. Okay, maybe, but maybe not, because apparently, the video may have made him a few $1,000s. I think he says it made him like $8,000 or something, and I don't want to just sit through the whole 8-minute video. That's cheap YouTube. I'm not a cheap content creator here. I'm trying to give you the best analysis. I mean, we're learning things. We're learning that great time to get a mortgage. Lock in those mortgage rates right now. Lock in those mortgage rates. So I want some mortgages. So I need some patrons to come on here. I need to have some steady membership so I can show a bank that I have the 3 months bank statement, so I can get some credit cards and pay them off and get the credit score right. Let's get everything set up so I can lock in 12 months time. I want to be able to lock in 5, 10, 20 mortgages. All right. I want all the mortgages. I want a mortgage in each state. I want mortgages all over the country. Okay, and if you're one of the patrons, what we'll do on one of the places that I have mortgaged, you can come stay. You know, depending on your tier, we'll do things like that. This will definitely get me kicking off Patreon. This is not, none of this is being promised right now, because I have zero mortgages right now. But at the point that I have some mortgages on some I'm ready to mortgage it up. I mean, look at this. I mean, there's literally been never a better time in history to get a fucking mortgage. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, so long as there's not a big war or something, and then it doesn't matter, you know, the mortgages just don't matter because it's all been blown to shit, and, you know, everyone's dead, you know, who knows. But as long as that hasn't happened yet, great time to get a mortgage. Beautiful time to get a mortgage. I mean, Jesus, and a great time to be in mortgage bonds. Like, Jesus, look at this. We had a pandemic arise, and you needed a force to come into the market and stabilize things. Buying. That statement, that sentence is fucking crazy. That sentence right there. Let me pull it up. That sentence right there behind me. Buying so many home loans is the right thing for the central bank to do to support the economy. Kevin Jackson, a managing director on the mortgage trading desk at Wells Fargo, said in an interview with Bloomberg, "We had a pandemic arise, and you needed a force to come into the market and stabilize things." What in the fuck? There's so many things wrong with that. There are so many things wrong with this statement. Now, I'm going to go through maybe, where are we? We're about halfway through this episode. It'll probably take me through the last half of this episode to break down why this is such an I mean, it's actually a completely appropriate statement for our time, but let's always take the point of view of an alien coming down, a civilized alien. They have a civilization. They've sorted out some kind of trading system to be able to move goods and services between each other in a civilized way. And they come down and they're like, oh, look at these humanoid, ape-like creatures. They have buildings, they have structures, they have roads. It seems like they're doing commerce. It seems like there's governments and leaderships and military, and they have mass production and shipping channels all over the world. And it looks like they've learned how to split the atom and use it as an energy source and use it as a constructive and a destructive force. These creatures seem to be doing pretty well. So let's see. They must have things pretty well kind of thought out. And free market economics, while it's not maybe the best way to figure out what things to do, it's a good way to find things to do efficiently. I'm robbing that quote from someone, but that's a reasonable quote to have. And free markets are good, and free market is what the biggest economy on the planet proclaims to have. So that's all good. These are all good things, right? So when the shit hits the fan, the market gets, since it's a free market, it's going to get disturbed. Prices are going to change because there's a free flow. And when there's an impediment, like just recently there was this large ship that kind of blocked the Suez Canal, and prices may go up in being able to ship goods because things are being delayed, and it's costing the shippers more money to be able to move it around. And I mean, that kind of makes sense. Is there going to be some economic pain? Sure, there absolutely is, but that's kind of the flow of the market, and that's what's going to go on. And the price of gas goes up, the price of gas goes down, the profits gets thinner, the profits get larger. The consumer's able to win, the producer's able to win. There's this kind of always a balancing act. One of the greatest thing that you could probably learn, and this is where learning about other things gives you kind of these indirect relationships to other things that can now make things make more sense. So recently I got heavy into car repair. Mainly I was gifted a car that was an old car that, if not having to do these maintenance things, could wouldn't have been running. Actually, there's a couple errors that it had that it wouldn't have been able to run safely. Like one of the things that was wrong with it, it's a 9099 Lexus ES300, correct? So that is essentially it's a Camry. It's a V6 Camry, but with a Lexus body. But the V6 Camry part is, all the core components, the engine, the transmission, all the major components are Camry derivative, just for an understanding. And it's an engine that's not only in the Camry. It was in the Camry, it was in the Avalon, it was in the Solara, it was in the RX300. It was in a bunch of different vehicles. So that engine configuration, there's millions of them on the road. And learning about that, you get to learn about one of the more prolific kind of engines and technologies that's out there. And as I got into car repair, since it's a nearly 22-year-old car, the value of it is anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000, maybe $4,000 if you go look on places like Auto Tempest. So we'll go do autotempest.com. And I was looking at some Mercedes-Benz. Let's look at Lexus. Let's go Lexus ES300. Perfect. And we'll do nationwide search. Fantastic. So we'll see Lexus ES300s, and let's go from lowest price. Wow. Look at that. Coach edition. So this is literally the one I have, the 1999 Coach edition. This one seems to be in pretty good shape. Is the interior in nice shape? So how's the interior look? So the paint isn't faded, same color. This is literally the same one I have. Wow, the interior looks pretty fucking incredible. This one looks incredible. Someone should buy that. I mean, I wonder if they got it reupholstered. They may have, because I don't see that it's perforated seat. So it may have gotten reupholstered, which is fine. You can see the age a little bit on. No, it does have the perforated seat. So this thing has been kept in a garage, because my seats are falling apart because it's been in the sun. Wow, this looks amazing. So in great condition, we see that car going for $5,500. So I mean, that's fucking incredible. $8,000 for a 2000 Lexus ES300. What the fuck? Holy shit. $750. Now we're talking. Look, there's another Coach edition. $750. Oh, and it's rusted out in the back. Same car, same color. This thing's it's the Coach edition again. Oh, that rust is nasty though. The inside, but that other one looked fucking beautiful. That other one looks fucking beautiful. Beautiful car. Let's go back here. So it's this car. So I was doing some car repairs because, I mean, well, the value of the car appears to be anywhere from, I mean, it would probably be closer to maybe this $1,900. It's around that range because the leather is beat up and stuff. But it's a good old little car. Now that one, I mean, that's gorgeous. That's gorgeous. It's in Pompano Beach. I almost just want to go see that car. Like, that thing looks amazing. Look at the headlights. Like, that thing's been in a fucking garage. That thing is amazing. That thing is incredible. Like, that's a beautiful car. Okay. So fixing some things, I had to fix a variety of things. Now, before the car was gifted to me, the radiator was changed. There's some boots on the CV axles were changed. The thermostat got changed. I don't know, maybe a couple other things. Since I've had the car, I've had to change, I think, 5 out of the 6 coils. I changed not because I had to, but probably a good idea too. The rear 3 of the spark plugs, 5 of the coils, the PCV hose. I changed optionally the valve cover gaskets. I changed the gaskets on the air intake. I just changed one of the hoses. I changed the air filter. I changed, obviously, the oil. I've changed the oil like a couple times now. And changed the drive belts. I still have to change the timing belt. I changed a lot of the power steering hoses, the inner tie rods, the bellows, the outer tie rods, the ball joints, the front shocks and struts, and all the rubber and bushings that go in there, the bushing that holds the power steering rack to the frame, the housing for the power steering rack itself, the rear oxygen sensor, the VVT solenoids, some of the evap valves, the little vacuum switching valves by the canister and up on top of the engine. I actually replaced all 3 of those valves. And then let's see what else got changed. A lot of the rubber hoses I've been switching out. Obviously the power steering fluid, a brake fluid flush, the hood struts, which is one of the early ones I did that I definitely am grateful for, because now with all the work that every time I look under the hood, because it's leaking a considerable amount of oil from its camshaft seals and crankshaft seals. That is a beautiful car. I almost want to go see that car in person. Garage kept. No, if it looks like that, it definitely was. And with as much as I know, price $5,500, immediate payment of $500 is required, time left 4 days. Used. Miami Fort Lauderdale cars, 1225 South Dixie Highway. Where is that? Where is this? I feel like I've been there before. I feel like, is this at a house or something? Where the fuck is this? Oh, is it at this car lot? It's at like one of these fucking little car places up here. Alright, so that's a gorgeous car. I would definitely recommend that car for anyone. I mean, it's such a great little car. I mean, it's fucking awesome. So, changing out all those things. One of the things that I got was the OBD2 little Bluetooth reader, which is a great for the price of the thing. Let's say it's like $20. Let's go to Amazon, and then let's do OBD2 Bluetooth. Right? OBD2 Bluetooth. So $99, $12. Where's the one I have? I think it's like one of these. $20, $21. So $21. Anywhere from $10 to $20. You have one of those, and then you get the app, and then you're able to get, and then the app that I have is Dash Command app. And the Dash Command app allows you to see not only your, you get to do the trouble codes, which is good, because I was getting the code for the air fuel sensor, and then I would have to go to AutoZone to get it checked. But for, I think the app is $10, right? So for $30, you now have a pretty, you can't do everything with the reader, it won't match one of those $1,000 readers. But let's just do, so now if we just do Amazon and we do OBD2 scan tool. So now let's see what the big beefy ones. Where's one of the ones with the huge fucking screens? There we go. $129. That's pretty nice. Launch $250. Oh, these things are starting to get cheap. I mean, I wonder if they do everything, but that's still not bad. Launch scan tool. Here we go. $44.50. Bosch Automotive Diagnostic. Now we're fucking talking. $4,000. Wow, there's a lot of scan tools you can get for $4,000. For the price, that would be a good YouTube video. For the price of one scan tool, you could buy like 10, 20, 30 of the little scan tools and just fucking try them out. Like, that better be a fucking good scan tool. Because, I mean, look at this. I can get almost, for $4,500, I can almost get 10 of these scan tools. I could have a team of techs out there with little Autel fucking scan tools, as opposed to having one big scan tool that everyone needs to share. So I don't know if the Bosch one is fucking worth it, compared. I mean, I'm sure it has all the bells and whistles. I'm sure there's things that the 475 does that the other one doesn't. I mean, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping. Does it do 10 times as many things? I don't know. But maybe there's, really in-depth. Like, there's something that I could use right now, which is I have a P0446 trouble code. And that means that there's an electronic problem with the evap system. And what I've seen in all the YouTube videos is with the beefy scan tool, you can go in and like purge and control the system and see the I haven't been able to find the sensor readouts for the evap system, which should work in one of those apps. I mean, all the variables in a car's computer just literally has to be, the name of the variable and then, an integer or whatever it is. And then the computer just has to, the little scan tool just has to go read what are all the variables on it and then just display them. Like, that's the most basic scan tool. It being able to do a lot of other stuff, maybe it can't purge it, but if you can at least see the value of it, and I'll tell you why. Because once I got the scan tool, one of the things I said I replaced was the VVT solenoids and the VVT filters. And I was able, now I probably could have discerned this from the AutoZone little printout where it said I had a P1354 code, which meant that there was a problem with the solenoid on bank 1. But how I noticed it was I was able to see the ignition timing just as one of the variables in the dash command app, and I saw that the ignition timing wasn't changing. It was staying stuck at like 15 degrees. And when the VVT system doesn't work in a VVT engine, the car is undrivable. It'll turn on, it'll roll down the road, but the tachometer will be all over the place, and then it's burning your catalytic converter to a crisp because it's not able to take in the right amount of air. It's awful. It's a horrifying feeling to drive a VVT car with a bad VVT solenoid. I mean, it's bad news. Like, if you continue on it, you will melt through your catalytic converter. It is no bueno. So seeing that was able to really help me. Now, I'm sure if I had a little more advanced, or maybe there is a way to do it in the app. I don't know. But what you're able to see on having one of these scan tools, whether it's a cheap one or an expensive one, but definitely the cheap ones, you're able to see the fuel trim and all these different variables. And what you're able to see, and what it's called, it's what is it called? Computer Balancing Act. I know that's not what it's called. It's no. What is it called? There's a name for it. How a machine optimizes itself. No. Optimizing compiler. No. Fluctuating machine properties. What is that thing called? What is it called? Quantum fluctuation. No. What is it? There is a name for it. A device which goes air fuel sensor device type. Different types. Air fuel ratio meter monitors the air fuel ratio. Also gauge. I'm gonna have 10 LEDs and some have more narrowband meters. I stated, but these are wideband meters and are mounted neither. All these show the air fuel ratio numeric display. Accurate electronics. These meters are more expensive. A malfunctioning oxygen sensor will result in air-fuel ratios that respond more slowly to changing engine conditions. A damaged or defective sensor may lead to increased fuel consumption and increased pollutant emissions, as well as decreased power and throttle response. Most engine management systems will detect a defective oxygen sensor, reducing emissions, fuel economy, engine performance. There's a great name for it. How a drone balances itself. Drones are a headline mainstream. Because, I mean, all machines do it. How mechanical features? Rotors, connectivity, rotors, accelerometer. Is it an accelerometer? The physics of how drones fly. Vertical motion, rotating. Forward and sideways. Using a computer. Voltage to each motor. You need a control for each motor power. It'll be crazy to do with the menu adjusted. However, you have some kind of computer control. You see, push a joystick with your thumb, let a computer handle. Accelerometer and gyroscope in the drone may further increase a GPS system. I haven't hit on the word. There is a word for it. How to balance. What drones are made of? No. Did this guy say it in his freaking YouTube video? Should be fuel trims explained. This guy explains it pretty good. No, Adobe.
Talking about long and short fuel. Hello and welcome to the Car Kernel channel.
Let's do it.
In today's video, I'm going to continue my series on how Toyota and Lexus engine controls work. In today's video, we're going to be talking about long and short fuel trims.
Good.
What they mean, how they are, how to look at them for diagnosis, and also at the end of the video, we're going to dedicate a good portion of this video actually to look at some live data and look at everything that we have learned in this series and how it actually looks in the real world.
Good.
But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Make sure you catch up on this series. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. And without further ado, let's dig right into it.
All right, let's go, man. Let's go. Let's do this. So essentially, my point is that, like a car engine, because what he's going to get into is that how is a machine able to return, able to run stable? Well, it's never really pointing in a straight line. It either has to point up or it has to point down. Now, at any point can change the direction that it's going, but it's either too low or too high, and it's almost never right where it needs to be. But once you average it out, it kind of averages out to a stable operation. But at any given time, it's going up or down. And then the rate of that is how far it is from being in equilibrium. And you need sensors. So just like how it's done in a car engine, as for how the mortgage rates or the interest rates or how much of these trillions that are owned by the federal bank and yada yada, at any point it's going up or down, up or down. And now where we go back to this statement of how it's one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever seen, is what they're saying is there could be a big external force. So like in an engine, maybe you open the throttle, maybe the density of the air changes, the temperature of the air, the volume of the air, the speed of the air, the flow of the fuel, whatever it is, something changes. And the computer now has to account for that change. Now the computer, it's like the digital interface with the analog world. An engine is an analog machine, and a computer is a digital machine. So a computer is able to make these step-by-step adjustments, and then the analog world is moving on its smooth curve, and it makes its adjustments, and it's trying to match the analog state with a digital response. And that's how all modern engines work. Now, in the economy, there's things... So now there's this... Like the central bank is like the ECM of the economy almost. That's the way it's kind of become. So, and that's the way they almost think of themselves. It's the central bank is the PCM, is the ECM, the engine control, the economic control unit. That's literally what it is. So they can pull a lever and have something happen in the economy. So now it's almost analogous to someone going and removing. So they do what's called a muffler delete. So they go and they with a buzzsaw, they chop the muffler and take the muffler off the car. And then, or the catalytic converter, they take the catalytic converter off. But then in order to not get the data, messed up, they'll just take the oxygen sensor out. So the oxygen sensor will now not be getting any meaningful data, and the engine won't be able to account for it. That's essentially what it is that they're saying, and they're saying that that's a good thing. And the person that's saying that's a good thing is someone who directly benefits from doing this. Like this is like the guy who I mean, what's even the analogy to this? But there doesn't even need to be a Kevin fucking Jackson, a managing director on the mortgage trading desk. So someone who were at Wells Fargo Bank, one of the biggest fucking foreclosing, fucking devils and demons of the fucking, not only the housing crisis, but just how many scandals has fucking Wells fucking Fargo been. So I love how Bloomberg, another outlet, literally owned and named, his namesake from a billionaire, and who's known for, like, Bloomberg, I don't know how much of their business this really is as far as revenues, but how did Bloomberg get rich? Bloomberg got rich for literally coining the Bloomberg terminal. Talk about a fucking Napoleon man complex that this fucking dude has, that he has to, literally piss on every fucking tree. He couldn't just call it the financial, the ultimate financial, the ultimate financial terminal, but acronized. So this fucker had to put his name on it. So he licensed out the Bloomberg terminal, which is just like a shitty computer interface of the financial data. Now, it's made billions of dollars. It's literally what made this dude a fucking billionaire. Then this fucker opens up Bloomberg News, which, they have their own, getting people excited about the finance. They want people to get into the mortgage bond industry so that they can go fucking sell them Bloomberg terminals, because that's, I don't know what part of the business is what. I don't know if it's separate, but it's all under this fucker's name. Bloomberg terminals, Bloomberg fucking news. So then I love who they're interviewing. Why don't they interview? There's this interview. It's like the 60 Minutes interview, which is fucking crazy. Like, it's fucking crazy to me. Like, they interview this woman, and it's like during the housing crisis, and it's they're asking like this group of people. They're like, oh, you were paying, the mortgage you were paying on the house was more than what the house was worth. And, you know, essentially it was like they were asking, why did you continue paying this mortgage when you either couldn't afford it, or, you know, they weren't giving you the refinancing, or, you know, why were you paying it when this whole thing was going on? And one of this woman's response was, you know, I felt like a responsibility to God to pay the mortgage payment. And it's like, man. I mean, God bless her. Hopefully she's doing all right. But it's like, no. Especially in today's economy. I mean, where the money is literally being printed and is literally propping up the whole like, it's not even a fucking joke. So what this guy is saying is, like, if a car mechanic's like, oh, you know, the air fuel the air fuel sensor was giving off, you know, it was giving us data, and because the circumstances have changed because there's a pandemic, so maybe the market needs to readjust, but we needed something else to just come in and just be like, nope, there's no problem. There's no problem at all. Like, don't worry about it. The mortgage, we're going to shut everything else down, but that's going to be fine. Like, what? This is fucking crazy. Like, this shit, everybody whose business got shut down, they should just go into mortgage bonds. I mean, like, if your restaurant got fucking shut down during the pandemic, or your business got shut down, or now they just go into mortgage bonds, because while everyone else has an external force ripping the business apart, this fucker at Wells Fargo is like, there's an external force that made everything okay. While there was chaos on the streets, thank God there is an external force that made everything okay. And that's episode 22 of the Rick Troutner Show. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next one. Subscribe. Tell your friends, because it's about to be a bumpy ride.